You guys see that okay? Can you hear me okay? I guess it is on. This is Pathology 320, in case you don't know which class you're supposed to be in. And my name is Dr. Rob Keller. We're going to hang out for the semester. Today we're going to go through a lot of syllabus type information like normal. Some of it can be a little dry, but a lot of it is actually required. We have to cover it. We're going to move directly into a real lecture right after we're done with that. How many of you received the Ph.D. Learn text or the push to your device, your phone, or email? Okay, so I know it's working. Did a lot of you that didn't raise your hand, you're not set up to receive pushes from a Ph.D. Learn announcement? So if that's the case, that's fine. You just need to probably make sure that you're checking the announcements periodically. But we'll go through all of the requirements today for the class. And I'll show you where the Ph.D. Learn shell, what it looks like, how to navigate it. We'll talk about the assignments, the expectations, and answer any questions you have. Okay? Sound good? All right, we'll take a break about halfway through, because I know a 2-hour block is a long time to sit. Your butt goes numb, and you gotta wiggle it a little bit for 10, 15 minutes. Okay? All right. So first up, I want to talk about kind of the structure of the course and how it's designed. We'll go through the syllabus. You can kind of see at the very bottom here the point totals. If you're enrolled in this class as a grad student or an honors student, or maybe you're contemplating having it as an honors credit, just come up and see me after class, and we'll talk a little bit about those details. Okay, but that's that little asterisk at the bottom of the screen there about we can actually offer the class as an honors unit if you would like it to be. There's extra work, of course. It's not just, you just deem it so. But my contact information is up top. The best way to reach me is going to be email. That way I can get the messages even if I'm actually not on campus. I teach 3 days a week, and then the other days of the week I'm up at my lab. My lab is off campus. We do a lot of tissue engineering, regenerative medicine type of research, but it's not on campus. It's actually a private lab just about 5 to 7 minutes away. Okay? So there's a textbook that's required. It's going to be important for you to actually have a copy or access to it. Either the 8th edition or the 9th edition will work. The syllabus is built around the 8th edition for page numbers. But there's a document in the Ph.D. Learn shell, and I'll show you where it is, that tells you if you have the 9th edition, what are the page numbers that you should be corresponding to. So it's like an 8th to 9th edition page number conversion. So you don't have to be stressed about which exact pages. The reason I say that is in this class I'm not telling you to read all of chapter 3. I say read these pages from chapter 3. Because there's a lot of material in this textbook. It's actually a medical school textbook, and this is a 300-level class, so we're not going to possibly cover everything in that text. So the Kumar text is a pretty classic pathology textbook. I think it's one of the better ones out there, but we kind of have to adopt it for the level of this class versus covering everything. Their lecture access will be on YouTube. You can go to that link there. The digital histology DVD, much of what you need, I'm going to show you on slides. If you want extra study material, again, that's optional. You don't have to buy the DVD. You don't have to use the YouTube site, although the YouTube site's free. You do need a textbook. And in 8th or 9th edition, having 2 options, you should be able to get a more cost-effective option. I know the 9th edition sells for $105.95 in the bookstore. How many of you were successful at picking up the textbook already? Anybody find any other solutions where to buy it that you want to share? Amazon. Okay, perfect.
Chegg has the 8th edition for like $40.
For 40 bucks,
Yeah.
the 8th edition. Okay, so that's the 8th edition will work just fine, guys. 40 bucks, that's pretty inexpensive. Here's the other option: is in the library, you can check out the textbook. You have to keep it in the library, but you can check it out for 4-hour increments. So I put a copy of the textbook in the library on course reserve. Okay, and I just renewed it yesterday, so it's there. If you're trying to look for an effective way not to have to buy too much stuff, that might be an option for you. Okay. Then there's some other pathology texts that you might find helpful. And the reason the textbooks are important is I am going to have you do work before we meet. Not this week. Some of you are like, oh, shoot, I didn't know that, we're... So this week's kind of a bye week, if you will. Next week, there's assignments that are due. There's a pre-quiz and there's a post-quiz. Pre before lecture and a post after lecture. So the idea about the pre-quiz is I want you to come to class prepared to talk about the material, or to at least listen and understand the material. If you just show up here and I lecture at you for 2 hours, it's not as effective as if you actually come already knowing what we're talking about, already answering some questions, already prepared. So there's a pre-quiz that's due by noon before lecture. Okay? And I'll walk through all that in more detail. But in order to complete those quizzes, they are open book, open notes, open internet. But you just need to be careful on the internet, what sources you decide are valuable sources. Not everything on the internet is valuable. Just because it's there doesn't mean it's true. So you're going to need to be a little cautious about that. But the internet is a valuable tool. There's no reason you couldn't use it. And as you move on in your professional career, you'll probably use it more and more. So it'd be silly for us to say up here, you can't use the internet as a source. Of course you can. But just understand that there's a bunch of garbage out there, and there's actually really good stuff. You're going to have to be able to sift through the two. So the textbooks, you can pretty much count on 95% of the time. Are there some errors in the textbooks? Yes, on occasion. Most oftentimes because they're a little outdated. By the time it makes it to a textbook, it's probably 5 to 10 years old in the published literature. Okay, so peer-reviewed publications are probably the latest and greatest, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when it comes time to challenging test questions. All right, so let's talk about this course description. We're going to look at different diseases, how it affects various body systems. We'll look at cell death, inflammation, and we're going to kind of focus on altered physiology, or the altered mechanisms. That's what this course is all about. Many of the topics in this class, this is a general pathology course, many of the topics could be an entire semester in of themselves. Cancer, for example. Okay? Cardiovascular disease. Or 2 semesters in all reality. And most of the time we're going to cover a disease topic in 1 week. So are we going to be experts in the field? No. The idea is to get you exposed to the concepts of pathology. And you probably had some of this in micro, in 205. And that's why it's a prereq. Because there's a lot of diseases or bugs or organisms that you are nervous about that show up, but you have to have a solid background of A and P and Bio 181 in order to be able to be ready for a class like this. So we have a few prereqs before you ever make it here. But this is just kind of a snapshot of what maybe the future is going to look like for you. So show of hands, how many of you guys are health-related professions? Meaning physicians, soon to be, if everything goes well. Physicians, doctors, PTs, raise your hand, let me see. PAs, dentists, dental hygiene, okay. Anybody not in a health-related field? I mean, I would say research is probably still within a health-related field, if it's maybe applied research. So I covered everybody. So that's 100% of the class. So I guarantee you a lot of the topics that we cover here, you're going to go on and learn more about in future classes, in other coursework. If you're taking some of these courses at the same time, they might translate nicely one over to the other. But as you move on to medical school or nursing school, you definitely will translate a lot of these things. The number one thing that I hear back is the importance of understanding inflammation. So in most disease processes, inflammation is at the very root. And you're going to see that throughout the semester. We'll actually start with one example today. And we'll end the semester, at the end of the semester, in cardiovascular disease, and there's tons of inflammation that goes on there. Even if you have blood vessels that have lesions in them, like atherosclerotic lesions, there's an inflammatory process in the wall of the blood vessel. That's what the problem is. It's not the only problem, but that's one of the stimuli that causes issues to show up. Let's talk about how you're going to be evaluated. So I get students that ask at the end of the semester, is there any chance you might give me a B or an A? Well, so the first thing is I don't give out any grades. I award grades to students based upon what they've earned. Okay, so it's totally on you to earn those points. It's my job to get you prepared to earn those points. And if I'm not doing my job, then you might be ill-prepared. So it's kind of a partnership, right? It's a 50-50 partnership. But the point distribution is shown here. There are 3 exams. There's 2 exams and a final. All of them are going to be cumulative. And I do that in all my courses. In fact, I see some familiar faces from 201 from a couple semesters ago. And you can ask those students, yes, they are cumulative. There are some concepts. They're not overly rough, but the idea is there are concepts that are cumulative concepts that you really aren't going to be able to forget. So let's pretend you're going to be a nurse. Where are the nurses, future nurses? Nurse I. Look at that. That's my plural for nurse. Okay. So you're a nurse. What's your name?
Hannah.
Hannah?
Yeah.
Hannah's a nurse. And do you think this is going to be an okay example? I've got this really bad swelling on my left side. And it's numb and tingling, and I can't really use it. So, I learned about that in nursing school, but I already took that test. So I'm sorry, I can't help you. But would you like me to take your temperature? Okay. How well do you think Hannah's going to do there? Sorry I picked on you, but... So you're not going to be able to just dismiss it as, oh, I already mastered the exam. So I'm done with it, and I don't have to actually remember anything. So let's practice now in this class this cumulative concept, because life is cumulative, right? If you forgot how to multiply, right, you're in really tough water, right? It can be a challenge. Well, maybe not as much anymore because we have these devices that are attached to our hip, and we can multiply. I think they've made me stupider because I can't do simple mathematics sometimes. But so let's talk about the phones. A little bit of ethics, and I'll get back to that. So I would really like for you guys to turn these off, or at least at the minimum put them on vibrate, as long as it's not like an obnoxious vibrate. And you know, your phone is like one of those, right? It's a vibrating phone, and it's too loud. And here's the problem: is it can be a huge distraction for people around you. All right, and you all are training to be future professionals, but I would argue you already are. Because nobody is requiring you to be here. Like, it's a required class. No. It's not against the law for you not to go to school now. At one point in your career, you didn't have a choice. You actually had to be educated. But now you're here because you want to be here. No one's going to cart you off to jail because you didn't get a college degree. This is actually your choice to be here. And it's my choice to be here. So we're both here. We're in a similar situation. We're both professionals. You expect some things of me. I expect some things of you, and that's sort of our contract. And I will commit to you to be on time, to be prepared, and to not be interrupted as best I can. And I understand there are emergency situations. So if there's an emergency, family emergency, or a unique situation, you need to slip out and grab that phone. I get that. But if your emergency is every Tuesday afternoon, then you are way too important for this class. Okay? Your life is overly complicated. So it can be super distracting for those around you. And I'm expecting you guys to come prepared to learn as I'm here prepared to teach. So I won't sit here and answer my phone and put you on hold. And I'm going to ask you guys to do the same thing to me and the people around you. And texting really falls in the same category. Okay? I understand that it's a little bit easier to do and it may not be as distracting, but now if you have the new mega screen Apple 6, then in the front row, if Kelsey had that, people in the back row could read it. I mean, it's that much. Okay? Fortunately, they're making special jeans for it, so I'm super relieved about that. So don't text. If you need to take a call, I get it, but just slip out and try to do it discreetly. Okay? So enough about that. And I know every now and then you forget to turn your phone off. I'm not going to call you out on it, but just try to remember. So back to the point total. So the exams are 300 points. So there's another pile of points for the quizzes. 110 points for the pre-quizzes and 110 points for the post. Now you notice there's 12 and they're worth 10 points because I'm going to drop the lowest at the end of the semester. Okay? So everyone has a bad week. I get that. And if you have a bad week or you just flake and forget or you just do them all and you did poorly on one, then you get one freebie. Okay, it's pretty nice. Questions always come, well, what if I did really well on the pre's and I didn't do so well on 2 posts? Can I keep all my pre's and drop? No, it's 1 pre and 1 post. Okay? So it's not like, buffet style, just one of each. Okay? All right, we won't have any makeup quizzes. The only caveat is if you have an institutional excuse, and by this point in your career, in a 300 level class, you probably know what that means. If you were up late last night at a rock concert, awesome. If you're on the mountain skiing all day because it was wonderful, pal, I'm super jealous. But those are not institutional excuses, unfortunately. Okay? Now let's talk about how we grade. So those that are in 201 know that I'll adhere to this, to the number. And so this is what I believe is the best, fairest way, maybe the fairest, maybe best is not the right word. The fairest way to do this is I explain to you what you need to do and how you need to perform the first day we're together in order to earn the grade that you want. So you look up there and you say, all right, well, I definitely want an A. There's not many students that look over to the right and say, that's me over there. That's what I'm looking for. So over to the left here, we'll just use the example of an 89.5. That's the total points. You have 89.5% of the points. What is your final grade of the semester? What was it?
A.
A. What happens if it's an 89.49? It is a what?
B.
It's a B. Okay? So you can expect that. I will stick to it. There's not going to be some wonky curve at the end of the semester. But it also means that at the end of the semester, if you're an 89.49, I actually do empathize with you. But if I make an exception for you, then it's not fair for the rest of the students. You say, we'll do it for all the students. No, because I told you what the rules are today, so that's what the expectation is, and that's what I'll stick to. Okay? It sounds harsh, but it's one of the fairest ways I've thought and implemented, and it works really well. Students get to the end, and they know what's going to happen. There's no like, wow, I wonder how he's feeling today. Where's he going to curve it? Is he grumpy? Hey, did you have a birthday recently? Is he grumpy? There's none of that. You know what your grade is, okay? All right. Attendance. I don't take attendance. But if you talk to those that have had the class in the past, if you don't come to lecture, you're not going to do well in the exams. It's just the way it is. I write my exam questions straight from my lectures and my lecture notes and what I give you. And those that have been in 201 would probably be able to echo that. That's the way I run 201 as well. 201 is a sophomore level class, so there are more incentives points-wise and things that I do in order to encourage students to come. Here it's just, you're going to come here because you want to learn. And you're going to come here because you're going to be a nurse. Hannah's going to be a nurse, and if she misses 12 lectures in the semester, she's not going to really know the material well enough to do well in nursing school. Okay, so you guys have made a commitment, and I put that responsibility on you. But I think you'll see that if you come, your scores on your exams will be significantly better than if you don't come. The other thing that I do is I record my lectures. I actually do it for myself because I've been doing this for a long time, and when I write an exam, I don't know if you've ever had this experience. I remember this experience when I was in college. There was a couple of questions on an exam that I know we didn't cover, and everybody else that I talked to agreed. Nobody had it in their notes, but the professor was adamant that we covered it, right? Because he always covers it every semester. Well, that was the end of the discussion, right? But now I can look back and say, oh, I'm pretty sure I covered that, but well, maybe I should double check. So, nope, I didn't cover it. I did cover it in the fall, but I didn't cover it in the spring. And so I know what is fair game. I will not write test material off the stuff we don't cover in lecture. So there may be pre-quiz and more likely post-quiz questions. The post-quizzes are due by Friday at 11:59 p.m. And there may be post-quizzes that are tough questions, and it may cause you to really hunt for some answers. It's supposed to encourage you to take what you know and see if you can apply it to maybe another disease or another situation, or where do I find information even on the web that could help me answer this question intelligently. So the post-quizzes are more difficult than the pre-quizzes. But I won't pull exam questions off of the quizzes, even the post-quizzes, the ones that are really tough. I will only write exam questions off of material that I cover in lecture. So if you look at the lecture notes, you'll see, and you'll see this today, sometimes there's blanks to fill in, sometimes there's some detail, a lot of white space. One of the best ways to do this is, and students have told me this, the feedback I get, is I print out the lecture notes. They're posted on BB Learn, I'll show you where to find them, as a PDF, and I do like 3 or 6 per page. I do it double-sided. I do it black and white because I can always look at my screen and get color if I want. And I take notes there. Other students say, you know what, I do them on my laptop, on my tablet, and I actually can write right on my screen. Okay, perfect. Students that tend to take notes on line paper and then try to correspond them back to the slides, it's tough because either the pace is too fast in order to keep that collaboration together where you're linking the two, or the notes aren't solid enough, you can't really remember, is it this slide or that slide? So I'm just giving you feedback of what students have told me works and doesn't work. So you can kind of choose what you want to do, what format you want to do. Electronically, it's just fine. And if you're good about it, you're a fast typer. If you want to record the lectures, that's fine. I will post the lectures on YouTube, but they won't be right after lecture. They'll be before the exam. But they won't be enough time where someone could just watch all the lectures and never show up. They're there to actually help you fill in maybe some gaps in your lecture notes. If you're going back through and you're writing and then it's like, you like fall asleep. So if you want to figure out what that trail was, you go to the lectures on YouTube, figure out what the heck we were talking about, okay, before I nod it off. No one's going to fall asleep, right? 2:20 in the afternoon, when the heat goes up, yeah, we'll see. All right. Let's see. Let's talk about this challenges, trick questions, and fairness. Okay. Hannah's going to be a nurse. She's going to be a phenomenal nurse. And she's going to work with a team. And one of those team members is going to be a doctor. I need a future doctor volunteer for this. Who's a future doctor? Kyle. Oh, look how close you guys are. Diagonally. Yeah, that's great. Kyle, say hello to Hannah. You guys don't know each other. You're not like secretly good friends, right? Okay, perfect. Okay. So, it's Dr. Kyle and Nurse Hannah. And they're treating old person Rob. Okay? So I have a vested interest because by the time I get really old, you guys might be taking care of me. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, what did you get problem. I need somebody else. All right. I need an A or, B or better. So let's say you're treating me. Do you guys think that you're always going to agree about the course of treatment? About me as a patient or anybody else? So how are you going to tell him that you think he's stupid? Or how are you going to tell her that you think she's not right about this patient? What? In a professional manner? Okay?
Maybe offer alternative.
Maybe offer an alternative? Are you going to stomp your feet and yell? Are you going to use hand gestures and wave like an Italian? Sorry, guys. First thing that came to mind. You're going to do it professionally and with respect. Well, if you never had practice arguing over something that you disagree with in a healthy way, how do you think you're going to do the first time? So I think in all my classes, I think this is valuable. If you think that there is a bad question, I want to hear about it. But I want it to be done professionally. And I'll coach you. And if it's not, I'll tell you, that was terrible. You should try that again. We should walk out, come back in. It's not going to be 110 on one. It's going to be you and I, maybe in my office hours, or maybe through an email communication. That's totally okay. But you need to be able to articulate where you disagree and why. And I will push back, of course, but I will try to push back also diplomatically and professionally. And I'll probably push you into the primary literature to try to prove your point. And the outcome is only good, in my opinion. Number one is we both get practice with it, and we get better at that. Number two is I know I'm not perfect. I might write back questions on occasion. Okay? Hopefully it's not a lot. It's to my advantage to write good questions so that I minimize the extra work of those coming to argue questions, right? But I do make mistakes. So that way you guys can help make me wiser and smarter about the concepts. And there's stuff that you bring up that 110 of you are looking in the literature, taking other classes. That's not nearly as much reading as I'm doing if it's 110 with one. So you guys can help bring things to my attention. Maybe I'm a little outdated on. Maybe new research. The research is changing all the time. Okay? If I'm wrong, then I learn where I made my mistake and I can correct that. If you're wrong, then you've practiced the process, and I guarantee you, you would never miss that topic again. Okay? So it's only a good outcome, whether you get a point back or not. Just the activity is worth the investment. Okay? So, emails of that was lame, question 5 was super lame. I mean, that's not articulating it well. Okay? And that's not justification as to why the question was a bad question. So this goes with the exams, it goes with the pre-quizzes, it goes with the post-quizzes. Okay? All right, we have to cover this. And I know you get more because you probably cover it every class. But there's this old proverbial saying that describes a person's true character. And it goes something like this. Your true character is who you are and how you behave when nobody's watching. Okay? So if you guys are all professionals, I expect that you'll act like professionals. You're going to continue to grow in your profession, in medical school and nursing school. And if you are actively doing any one of 1 through 4, it's not going to stop here. It's going to follow you for the rest of your life. So that's the choice that you need to make. Is, what type of person am I, or am I going to be? And what type of professional am I, or am I going to be? Okay. In a class of this size, the cheating isn't necessarily something that shows up often. On exams, we do 2 different versions, and at the 300 level, most students at your point in your career don't seem to be cheating. It's not all that common. What's more common is plagiarism or fabrication. So what does that look like? Well, plagiarism can be, I mean, can you work together when you study? Absolutely. But I want you to take the quizzes on your own. And there are some tools. There's a pool of questions and a polls from the pool of questions that I've written. There's not a code you have to buy. You just have to get the textbook. You don't need a code, an online code. It's in BB Learn, and I wrote all the questions. But there may be some bad ones in there. That's why I want you to tell me where the errors are. But I really do want you to do your own work. Okay, so sitting down together and, what is your name?
Jim.
Jim. So Jim and I decided we're going to take the quiz together. And we're going to share and compare answers. Is that doing your own work? No. Okay? Am I going to be able to police it? No. In reality, probably not. But you are going to be able to practice it as a professional. So it is an honor system, and I do expect the best out of you. Okay? The fraud or the fabrication, these are things like, you know, there was a death in the family, but there really wasn't. And so I missed the exam. Okay? I mean, I know that family stuff happens, and it's rough. But those are the kinds of excuses that, from a character standpoint, I mean, that's kind of going in a direction that's not a healthy direction for you. Okay? Long term. Enough said about that? Okay. If you have any more questions on it, you can go to this link and you can read the -27 font, which I'm not going to bore you with, but it is all here on the syllabus at the back. All right, so let's talk about the schedule. That's that. Let's talk about the schedule. So today's the 13th. We meet once a week. This class is one of the older blended classes. We blended this class before blending was, you know, popular. I think the first terminology was hybrid classroom. Now it's called a blended classroom. I'm sure there'll be some other new, you know, fancy schmancy term in 5 years. But in all these classes, we have similar concepts. And the similar concepts are we want to put the material in front of our students in numerous platforms. Okay? And so my 201 class, if you took it with me, has the same strategy. But we actually blended this class before we blended 201. 201 was a little bit more of a requirement to blend because that's what was going on. But PATH happened years before. So we only meet once a week for a 2-hour period, and it's a lecture. It'll be a typical didactic lecture. Okay, it's not, we're not going to show up and say, all right, well, why don't you break off in groups of, you know, 7 and talk about this sentence and how it makes you feel and what does this mean to the cardiovascular system. And I'm going to circulate around after I'm done checking my email and see if you have any questions. Now I'm going to come prepared to give a typical lecture, but you're going to come prepared with pre-work. So you can see it begins next week. So today we're introducing and then we'll start the cell injury and death lecture. And there's no assignments or quizzes this week, so you have a bye week. Next week, we're going to finish up cell injury and death, and you have a pre-quiz and a post-quiz that's due. The pre-quiz is due by noon before lecture. So noon on Tuesday is when that assignment is due. I'll show you where to find it here in a minute. The post-quiz is due on Friday by 11:59 p.m. I'm trying to give you the maximum amount of time before the weekend starts because I don't want you to forget. If we make it due any later than that, a lot of times students forget to do it. And that's just rough when you forget because it's not a scheduled activity. Yes?
When do the quizzes open?
They're open now. You can work ahead. All the quizzes are open. If you have a wedding you're going to, you have a conference you're attending to present your research, this happens at this level. A lot of you are in labs doing research. Okay? And you know you're going to be gone. The lectures are already loaded online. I'll show you where those are. If you haven't found them already. The PowerPoint files are. You know what the content is. You have the textbook. You can take the quiz even before you left, or from your hotel room, as long as you have a reliable wireless connection. Okay? They're timed, 30 minutes for each, 30 minutes for the pre, 30 minutes for the post. So my suggestion is, don't open it until you're ready to take it. You probably want to do the reading and look at the lecture before you open the pre-quiz, at the minimum. Okay? Because the quizzes are going to ask you questions, and if you don't know it right off the top of your head, there's no reason you can't go search and find the answer. That's what I would do. But if you don't know even what we're talking about this week, or what the textbook says, or what the flow of the lectures are, you're going to have a tough time answering all the questions quick enough. Okay? So don't open until you're ready to complete it. It should be done in one sitting. If you get kicked off the internet signal, you log back in right away, the elapsed time is going, but you should be able to get back in. Okay? So we'll stick to this. You can see the first exam is on the 17th of February. And we have a guest lecturer that's going to come in on the 10th. That's not like I'm not going to be here. I will be here. And that's the lecture before spring break, which we won't have any class, so we'll do that week off. I'm nice like that. And then exam 2 is on the 7th of April. And then exam 3, otherwise known as the final, is according to the final exam schedule. So it's on May 7th, which is actually a Thursday. We'll talk a lot about it as it approaches. But it's from 12:30 to 2:30. So what we're supposed to do is schedule them based on the final exam schedule. So you should look at your finals now. And don't book your cruise for the summer until after my final. I mean, you can blow all the other finals off, but don't miss my final. Okay? And look at it now to see if you have any conflicts. Now, all your classes should know when their finals are. There shouldn't be any conflicts. If there are, likely they may not be following the final exam schedule. Okay? But on a rare occasion, everyone's following the final exam schedule, and there is an error. This happened last semester with one of my classes. And so that could be the case. Okay, we will, it says subject to change, but we probably won't deviate unless there's some unique circumstance from this schedule. So you know what's coming, you know what's to anticipate, and you know how to perform. Okay, so here's some information about the pre-quizzes. They're, it says generally, but they are due by noon on the Tuesday of every week. This says generally, but they are due by 11:59 on the Friday of each week. Okay? Any questions on the syllabus? Where do you find the syllabus? Does anybody know? In this BB Learn shelf. So this is the shelf for this class. The other thing is, if I do have any grad students, come see me after class, because you probably can't get into the shell yet because you're registered for a $5.99, and so I just need to add you to this shell so you can get these assignments. We do that this week, you miss nothing. We do it next week, Wednesday, well, you missed the first quiz. Okay? So don't do that. Let's take care of it this week. It's only Tuesday. We still have lots of time in the week to get that done. If you look at this page, we'll turn the edit mode off so it looks like what you're going to see. This was that first announcement. So if you're not set up, you can be set up. If you don't want to, I get that. But you can set up your devices, your phone or your email, to actually push these BB Learn announcements. Like it says, first lecture today at 2:20 in Bio Room 256. And then there's a doodle poll link. Did all of you see the doodle poll link? If I click on that, there it is. There's a doodle poll link because we have a supplemental instructor for this class, which is actually very rare for a 3-level class. And we need today to finalize this. So if you want to do this now on your phone or on your computer, that's totally cool. Because I bet you can still listen and do the link. Okay? If you're watching a Netflix video, you might have to pause it. And if you're shopping on Amazon, you may have to wait. Okay, just put it in your cart and hit save for later. But you can do the doodle poll now, and this will help us determine when these SI times are going to capture the greatest population. Are we going to be able to satisfy 100% of you? No. It's impossible. We're going to have to go with the majority. Okay, so don't be haters. You're like, oh, no, I can't make any. Well, we have to go with the majority. Okay, but if you don't vote, then we don't even know when you want the SI sessions to be. Okay? We have an SI. Kelsey, come up here. Kelsey is an SI who was an SI for me last semester. I'm going to let her say a few things about herself. And she took this class and was one of the top students in the class. So she not only knows the material and is SI for this class already, she actually is very familiar with the way I write test questions. Okay? So that insight could be extremely valuable.
Hello everyone, can everyone hear me okay? Okay, awesome. So I'm Kelsey, this is my contact info, kmp344@nau.edu, it's also in the syllabus. These are looking like the times that we're going to have SI. I'll have them twice a week for 2 hours. This is looking like the most popular choice for Monday 6 to 8 and then Wednesday 3 to 5. Or if I can't get these choices, I'll go with these, but I have to schedule them right after class today. So do all of you guys know what SI is? Essentially for the most part? Okay. So in general, students that attend SI about 3 to 4 times in the semester do a lot better than students who don't. And that statistic should make sense because when you're going to SI, you're spending time studying outside of this class. This class is very challenging, but it's very manageable. I took this class not having taken a class from Dr. Keller before, so if you're a little bit worried about, oh man, I didn't take him for 202, I've never seen how he writes a question before, I was in the same boat and I did well, so it's totally capable for you to do as well. I don't know what else I'm going to say. I don't like
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Well, right now I'm a senior, obviously at NAU, working on a degree in biomedical sciences with double minors in chemistry and philosophy. I do a lot of other stuff on campus. I'm the president for the Student Health Advocacy Committee. I'm also on the Cardinal Q National Honor Society, which is why I'm a very busy person and why these times are a little bit limited. But my job is to be here for you. I hope to eventually be a PA one day, and so I really like to be in service to others. So if you have questions and you can't come to these SI times, please feel free to email me. I usually get back within a day or two. And so if you don't email me, I don't know what your questions are. So if you have questions, please feel free.
Okay, round of applause for Kelsey. Round of applause. Okay, so this is the doodle poll. If you're not going to do it here because you left your wireless signal at home, then do it when you get home, quickly. Okay? Because we want to capture when is good for you so we can pick those times. SI is one resource. The other resource is myself. So my office hours are listed here. 11 to 1 on Monday, as well as 4 to 5 tomorrow. And my office is in this building on the 4th floor. Okay? If those times don't work for you, I could schedule an appointment. If you have a car and you're portable, okay, have car, will drive, and it's a Thursday or a Friday, I'm usually at my lab all day, both of those days, unless we have sick amounts of snow. Then we can schedule a meeting on the Agassiz lift, and that'd be just fine. Okay? So we can work out opportunities for you guys to get additional resources, but as Kelsey said, if you don't tell us that you need to talk to us because you're not understanding the material, we can never know. Okay, so you got to come and make yourself known in a professional way. Don't throw a tantrum and stomp your feet, but tell us what you're struggling with, and we'll figure out how to help. Okay, so those announcements, if you're not getting the pushes and you don't want to get them to your devices, which I understand, then make sure that you're checking the BB Learn shell for this class, and you can see the most recent announcements up top. But you click on those more announcements. There are some relic announcements from old semesters, but I've left them in there because they're actually kind of interesting topics, like some questions about eczema or things about meningitis. You know, the ones that say like final exam tomorrow, I deleted those. You're not like, holy crap, what? I missed the final? So the relic stuff that's in there is more informational stuff. But the new ones will show up either at the top or the bottom, depending on how you have your BB Learn shell set up. You can put the new announcements at top or the new announcements at the bottom. Okay? All right. So more information that's in this is if you go to course content, you can see here's where the syllabus is in this folder. Click on that, getting started. This is the syllabus that I was showing you as a PDF. So either save that to your desktop so you have it electronically, send it to yourself and put it on your library, on your device, or kill a tree and print it. Okay? I mean, I don't care how you do it, but make sure that you know what's happening. If I go back to course content, there's some additional things like resources. In the resources folder is where you're going to find this 8th versus 9th edition page number. It also was an announcement. So if you go to the announcement, you look through the relics of the old announcements, there's one with like yellow highlighting and stuff. That's actually the same as this document right here. So that document will be helpful. And there's some other stuff that we'll kind of come to throughout the semester in that resource folder. There's some various web links in here and some animations and videos. And then this is the second most important tab, is next to syllabus, is your weekly tasks. So the weekly tasks, if you click on that, you'll see week 1, week 2, and the dates are all set so you know that you're in. If you don't have to count, like, what is week 7 or 8, I can't. Well, if you know what the date is, okay, then you can figure out where you are. You don't even actually technically have to look at the syllabus, because you just know from February 9th, that's a Monday's date, to February 13th, which is the Friday's date, that's what I'm supposed to be working on. Okay, so if you click on week 1, it has these 2 lectures that we're going to go through today. Our introductory stuff, and then our first lecture on cell injury and death. If I back out to the weekly folders and I go to week 2, that cell injury and death lecture is again in there because we're going to finish it next week. But look, there's 2 items that need to be done. There's a pre-quiz that's due by January 20th, which is a week from today, by noon. And it tells you that. There is a post-quiz that's due, that date is Friday, not this Friday, but a week from this Friday, the 23rd, by 11:59 p.m. Does that mean I have to stay up till 11:59 p.m. and then hit submit? No. It'll submit whenever you do it and you hit submit. There's a 30-minute time for each. So if you start it, you have to finish it in that one sitting. Okay? But if you are working and you know that you're not going to be able to get to it until Friday after work, I understand. So it gives you a little bit of extra time. It doesn't work well if I give you guys the weekend because students forget. They just get busy and it snows like crazy and you're grabbing your skis and you're not you're not thinking about this class, and I get that. If I click on this pre-quiz for next week, and the post-quiz will be the same way, it'll give you some instructions, like has a time limit of 30 minutes. It will say them to submit automatically when the time expires. Okay? The test can be saved and resumed at any point until the time has expired. I wouldn't suggest that because you only get 30 minutes. Okay? But that also means if you get kicked off of your signal and you can get right back in, you shouldn't have any problems. You might lose it for 30 seconds or a minute, but it probably won't kill the entire quiz. Okay? And then it tells you again what the due date is, and then if you just hit begin, it'll start the quiz. Okay? Questions over the pre and the post quiz? Okay. Yes?
Will the topics in the quizzes be covered from the book or in lectures?
The quiz topics for the pre are going to either come out of the textbook readings, primarily, or the lecture slides. Or it may be about that topic, and you might have to go look online somewhere. And you use Google or Google Scholar, and you put in a couple of keywords together, and you can kind of decipher it. Many of them are either straight off of a lecture slide or out of a textbook reading. Okay, for the pre. The post quizzes, you may not find, you likely, probably, I'd say, 60% of the time you'll find them in the lectures. We covered it. 40% of the time we didn't even talk about it on the post. Okay. So an example might be, we covered cancer, and we talked about cancer at length, but there's a specific question about maybe pancreatic cancer. And we didn't cover pancreatic cancer, but based upon what we did cover on cancer and what you could ascertain off of looking up online information about pancreatic cancer, you should be able to answer that question. But that would be a post-quiz type of question. That won't happen on the pre-side. I want you to build up to that.
How many questions are there?
There's 5 questions for the pre and 5 for the post. Only 5 questions. Okay? So you have a good 5-6 minutes per question. And some of them will be, if you did the reading and you looked at the lectures, there'll probably be 1 or 2 that you're like, oh, I either know it right off the top of my head, I'm just going to look it up to verify, or you're like, I don't quite remember, but I know exactly where to find it. There'll be 2, maybe 3 that will be like that. There'll be 2 or 3 that'll be more challenging, that you'll want to spend your time on. Okay?
Will there be short answer type?
Nope, they're all multiple choice. And they're graded automatically, and they'll dump into your BB Learn gradebook so that you can look to see how you're doing in the class at any given time in the semester. Okay? Other questions? These are good questions. Yeah, sorry. There's one.
Right. So after the quiz, like after the due date's over, can you go back and see what answers were?
Yeah, so when you submit, you'll get a score, and you'll see what I think it'll tell you what I think you just get a score when you submit. But after the due date, it'll open up, you can open up and look, what did I miss and what was the correct answer. But in order to do that, after the due date, you go in through your grade book and you click on the grade for the quiz, and it'll give you options to select from. And you can review the quiz. So you access it not through this folder when you're trying to review after the due date, you want to see all the answers. You go in through your grade book where it shows, if it's worth 10 points and you got 8 out of 10, you want to know which one did I miss, what was the correct answer, go to your grade book and click on it there. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. All right, so the BB Learn shell is important for you to be able to access it. Anybody, if you've never used BB Learn and this is freaking you out, maybe come see me after class, or come see me tomorrow at 4 o'clock at my office, and let's make sure, bring your laptop, and let's make sure that we can log in. You know where it is. You know where to find it. Technology interface shouldn't be a reason, or a lack of technology interface shouldn't be a reason that you're not doing well. Okay? It's not complicated if you're familiar with it. If you've never done it before, you just need to learn the platform, and you'll be just fine. Okay? So I don't want you to freak out. But again, if you're not comfortable with it, you don't know, and you don't say anything, then there's no way I can help you. I just assume that all of you are computer programmers, and you're smarter than me on computers. And if something were to break, I'd ask you how to fix it. That's generally the case with this population. Okay? When you get old like me, then all the computers are outdated. So if that's not you, you're like, you know what? I know that I'm in this college age group, but I am not computer savvy, and I've never used BB Learn. Come see me, and even I can show you how to do it. Okay? If I can do it, I know you can. All right. Questions over that?